SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Excuse me, I'm just playing air drums. How y'all doing? Scott Sands in for Richard Cross here on SuperTalk Mississippi. It's great to be here, and I hope you like me, or I hope you're getting used to me, especially you, Lance, because apparently I'll be here for a few days. I just found out yesterday I'll be filling in for Richard all of next week as well, in addition to the Friday shows.
Well, I mean, you do a great job, so you make it very easy. And I'll tell you, SuperTalk lets me work with a lot of great people, and you're one of them. So good morning, Sands of Time. Glad to see you on this Friday, my friend.
I am blushing already.
You've been busy, though. I know you have been. I'm glad that you found a groove with us here on the morning and middays. It's a lot of fun to have you.
I really love doing this because I've talked about this before. I moved away from Mississippi, and I've lived in a bunch of places. I left Mississippi, went to San Diego, and then to Indianapolis, then to Toledo, Ohio. And I was born in Mobile, went to college in Mobile, but I went to high school on the coast and worked on the radio in Gulfport, Biloxi, as well as in Hattiesburg in the 90s mainly. And I've got most of my high school friend group. We're still very close in Mississippi. I've still got one of my best friends from the early 90s lives in Mississippi, and we all talk all the time. So it's fun to be back on the radio, and especially in Mississippi, and I'm honored to fill in for great people like Gerard and Richard here on SuperTalk Mississippi, work with you and Rhino and Will and Cammie and Alex, and everybody on the team has just been great. So I have a blast doing it. The weird thing is I'm also looking for a job. I've been sitting out a non-compete with my former employer in radio, which ends as of today, so I feel like I'm getting a divorce. I feel like I'm free, but this whole industry has changed, and we'll see where things go. So it's been fun to have something to do rather than fill out job applications on LinkedIn all day, which has to be the biggest. I don't know when the last time you applied for a job was, but I don't know. I almost prefer going back to the days where you would have to go to the post office with 30 resumes and cover letters and mail them off than having to fill out everybody's different system, whether it be Workday or some of the other online application processes. It's a good hour ordeal in some cases to apply for a job, and you may not hear. I applied for jobs in January, and I'm hearing back from them now. It's just the job market is just weird today. And anybody else going through the same thing and what I'm also having to deal with now is filing for unemployment benefits, which is now also online. That's a new experience. And I don't believe any state in the country has figured out an efficient way to file online unemployment claims. Just a little side rant, a little note.
I had to do that mess during COVID briefly, and it was no fun. And I'm not one of those that enjoys not being busy. COVID was that moment in time where you kind of you figured out if you like to sit on your butt and do nothing, or you didn't like that feeling. And I hated it. It was the worst feeling in the world. So I did whatever I could do. I worked with an electrician. I didn't know anything about electricity,
Oh, good.
Yeah, no, yeah. I was learning
that sounds
as fast
safe.
as I could learn, So, but yeah, the filling out paperwork and all that. I did that for so long in finance, and not a rant or anything. I know some people really enjoy it, but that was the one main reason I would say I probably left. The paperwork, goodness gracious. I mean, it was just a mountain of it all the time. And, you had to keep up with everything for years upon years upon years. And, you just became, it seemed like you were a library of papers. And then you'd have to fill out papers. And then, opening an account. There was 400 papers and papers and papers. And so I know how you feel. And then looking for a job. Yeah, everybody has what's so important to their job. It's like this doesn't apply to any other job, so we've got to know exactly this, and this. Where I wish there was a way to make that process a little bit more streamlined for everybody.
Well, I have
because
mastered.
It is a mess. It is a mess.
I've mastered artificial intelligence over the last few months.
You have
I believe,
yeah,
because I've written a couple of bots to take a job description. Match it with my resume, redo the resume, and write a custom cover letter and tell me also, is it worth my time to apply for this job?
Yeah. Well, I love it when you get the cover letter question, like, hey, write a cover letter. It's like, can we just sit down and have a cup of coffee?
Right.
Can we? I'll buy. You know what I'm saying?
Look at what I've done. Tell me if you think I'm a good fit, and let's talk. Let's just let's move on. And why do I need the worst job interview that I've had? And it wasn't bad, really. It was just unexpected. Was with the state government office, and I logged in, and there were 13 people, and they had 26 questions in multiple parts, and told me that at the beginning of the Zoom interview. Okay, this is not going to go well at all. This sounds like a torture.
Yeah, I mean, the whole process is torture. It's not like it's supposed to be fun, I think, but at the same time, it could be a little bit more streamlined. Because I do think that, when you hear people saying, I've put out 1,000 resumes, or I've put out 100, I don't see how people can do it. I really don't. That's I don't know. I mean, that sounds like torture. And if you want to torture me, that's torture right there.
If you'll allow me, if you're hiring for executive management, comms, PR, marketing in Mississippi, you can find my profile on LinkedIn. I'm Scott Sands.
Yeah, the bot, Scott Sands.
So that's I've made my plug and my pitch to the people of Mississippi. Maybe I should do that more often here, as I fill in for Richard. I would love to. That would be a blast.
Move you back, man. We need to get you back down here, get you home, and. Yeah, I'm sure somebody out there is going to go, man, I like this guy. He's smart. He's been up there in the middle of America. Let's get him back to Mississippi. It takes a little money, doesn't it, Scott?
It does.
Needs a job
sometimes. Well, yes, but I've tried everything to stay busy too. By the way, I've driven for Uber.
Man, I unloaded wood. I mean, I literally would go.
Weird.
I would pull up to this place, and they would say, "All right, you got to be here." And I had a trailer, pretty nice, two-wheeled, or I would say double axle, made for a car. And so I would physically load 50, 60 boxes of hardwood flooring onto the trailer. And then I would drive maybe 2 hours. And then you'd pull up in somebody's yard. And then I'd have to unload all of it box by box. And then you'd go back and do it. So it was great exercise, but man, I mean, I did some crazy stuff. Worked in a kitchen for a while, learned a lot. But I mean, I hid from the shot, though. That was one of the things. I was not getting the shot. I was not getting a booster. I was not doing that. So it was not easy to find work, honestly, and just kind of
because there were that was a weird period.
Wasn't it?
I mean,
Man,
there were some
strange.
employers that were demanding people get vaccinated, and
a lot of them.
I got vaccinated. I was obese, 50 years old, out of shape, high risk. My son is high risk. So I did get vaccinated. I don't have any regrets about that, although we're certainly learning more about
I'm not saying it was bad or good. It just wasn't for me.
Based on the information we had available at the time, I thought, okay, maybe I'll go ahead. I never got the boosters and all that. One shot was enough. Now they're threatening there's this new strain. This new. It's all.
The moment RFK
they enjoy
said
the
that,
hype.
Yeah, well, I think the moment RFK basically said we don't need to be giving these COVID shots to pregnant women and kids and that kind of stuff. And then what was it? 34 minutes after that, there's a new COVID strain coming. Oh no. And the winds of the Sahara are blowing. Oh goodness, it'll be here in 5 minutes.
Release the Kraken. We need some new headlines.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's getting boring out there, I guess.
So today, coming up, we'll talk to State Senator Bart Williams next hour. I think the State House got the budget thing all figured out, although there are some roadblocks. The Senate is dealing with it today. They may have. I need to look on this. And Bart will be able to fill us in. I think they're very close to getting it done. Whenever one of these special sessions happens, everybody has to come back to Jackson, and they're all ready to get back home and get this done as quickly as possible. Some of the Democrats are trying to hold it up, and
it's a nice little powwow.
I was back and forth with somebody on X yesterday that was complaining. One of the friends that's been on with us, either with the morning show or when I filled in for Gerard, was complaining that Democrats were requiring that the bill be read aloud, that all the bills be read aloud, and I know that's annoying, but there's something to be said about knowing what's in a bill before you vote on it, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on. Maybe have an idea what's on the. I suggested they get all the play-by-play guys for the college baseball teams for State and Ole Miss and
just
USM come in and read it, just to warm up their pipes before the games this weekend.
That's not a bad idea, Scott. I like that.
We'll also talk with Mayor Toby Barker of Hattiesburg and Robyn Tannehill from Oxford, both cities hosting regionals in the said college baseball. And we'll start next hour with Tony Lymon and talk about marching bands and some other fun stuff just to have a relaxing Friday morning. And some headlines coming up in a second, too. I'm Scott Sands in for Richard Cross this morning on Super Talk Mississippi. C-Spire text line is open as well at 601-879-4395.
From the All right, now to the important stuff.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important.
Huge news. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross. I'm Scott Sands, sitting in this morning. Find me on X at Scott Sands Media. Lance, I would like to point out, and for anybody watching the video stream at supertalk.fm, I am wearing Ole Miss light blue today. I had no Ole Miss or USM or Mississippi State gear to wear, but at least I would like to point out I am not wearing anything for the Alabama Crimson Tide, my team, today. So
they play today too, so
I know. I purposefully
Miami.
picked out light blue. This is an Ole Miss shade, right? I think I did good.
You're close enough. Yeah, a
They're
little
pretty close.
seafoamy color. Yeah, I like that, man. Looks good. So, yeah, you can go with powder blue, navy blue, or red or white for Ole Miss. No, Southern Miss, you've got all kinds of options there with gold and yellow and black and the white. And State, they've got quite a few, different color schemes.
Right.
Depends on who you want to roll with. But, if you were here, you could actually go watch two very good teams kind of line up. Miami crawfished into the regional with Alabama in here, so it's funny. Alabama had a great season. They're at Southern Miss, who had an even better season. So Alabama was one of the hottest teams in the country for, the better part of the season. And then, kind of slowed down a little bit. Ended up with 41 wins, though, missed the regional as far as hosting, but was a 2 seed, and they get to play Southern Miss at some point maybe. That ought to be a great battle, but Southern has Columbia today, a 29-17 team. So it should be a great regional. That one is paired with Vanderbilt, and that has some teams in it too, with ETSU, who's 41-15, and then Louisville 35-21. Didn't have a great year, but they're always tough in the postseason. So Vanderbilt being there, number one,
How many teams make it into this phase of the college baseball playoffs?
Well, you have 8 times 4, so on each side. So you have 8. So you have one side.
That's not as many as I thought.
Yeah,
what aggravates me as a casual fan is that there is no easy way, or that I have found anyway, to track the games. Like when March Madness hits, you can find the brackets. With baseball, I have no clue where to look to follow the teams and see who's playing.
The best way to do it is just to go to the NCAA 2025 baseball championship, and there's a couple of different brackets in there to look at. The printable one does help, so if it doesn't have times, that's the problem. Most of the times of the games are going to be like 12:30, 4:30, or 1:30, 5:30. So they try to stay on schedule pretty good. But as far as finding a one place, ESPN's bracket stuff is not the greatest when it comes to college baseball. So, where I go is either go to the individual team who is hosting a regional. They have those schedules on their schedule. And then you have the NCAA site, a couple of them. And then the SEC has some stuff too, but there's not a great place for it. Your top.
I think baseball needs to figure out a way to make that more approachable for casual fans than March Madness.
Well, it's similar to girls, with softball. It's all over the place. I mean, there's so much. It is very difficult to figure out who's playing when and where, but in the regional format, they all seemingly try to stick to a 12:30, 4:30 format with games. Now, remember, you got a lot of West Coast stuff going on, so that 12:30 there is a lot different time than 12:30 here.
So there's good baseball for the next few days.
Oh,
USM
man.
plays Columbia at the Pete tonight at 6, I believe.
Yeah.
Ole Miss Murray State at 7 at Swayze, and Mississippi State Northeastern in Tallahassee at 6:30. So all three of those games are kind of at the same time tonight.
Well, tomorrow, that 12:30, 4:30 schedule really kicks in on the Saturday. So if you're looking around tomorrow, you get up and you want, is baseball on? Yeah, baseball's going to be on. So your top 8 seeds, though, the ones that were given basically, if you win your regional, you'll host. So that's what happens. You have 16 seeds. 8 of those are national seeds. So those were Vanderbilt, Texas, Arkansas, Auburn. Think of that. The top 4 national seeds: Vandy, Texas, Arkansas, Auburn, SEC schools. Then you got North Carolina.
Just means more.
Yeah, and then LSU and Georgia in there as well at 6 and 7. And then Oregon State was the 8th seed. 9 through 16 are also. So if any of the pairings, like Southern Miss is paired with Vanderbilt. Southern Miss is the 16th seed. If they win their regional, they will play Vanderbilt if Vanderbilt wins their regional, and they will have to travel to Vanderbilt to do that. So, but if Vanderbilt loses their regional and Southern Miss wins, then generally Southern Miss would be the host site for the next round, which is the super regional. So 9 through 16 are Florida State. Ole Miss is 10, Clemson 11, Oregon 12, Coastal Carolina 13, another Sun Belt team, one of Southern Miss's nemesis in that league, and then Tennessee at 14, UCLA at 15, Southern Miss at 16. So really high-end grouping there of your top 16, Scott. It's I don't really think there was a whole lot of gray matter when choosing these sites. Every one of these teams had great seasons. So.
I was just telling the boss, Will, yesterday that I'm so glad that I'm doing mornings with you, because we'll be talking a lot about college baseball for the next few days as I fill in for Richard, and I know literally nothing about college baseball. I'll watch some of these games, but I don't know much about college baseball, and I'm willing to admit that. It's
sloppy. It's a sloppy sport when you look at it compared to the Major League Baseball. It's a lot of walks and errors, and it's a wonderful sport. Don't get me wrong. But if you're looking at it to be clean and perfect, the bigger fields, you see much more of a Major League style play, like the SEC tournament, when you have the large fields and, the home runs aren't really the big the draw you're trying to manufacture and play and pitch. It really, to me, makes the game a little easier to watch. You get in some of these smaller stadiums in these regionals, and these games will get crazy, man. It's again, it depends on what you like, but you get a lot of everything in college baseball. You get the blowouts, and then you get the 2-1 games. So you kind of have to be a little ready. If you're pulling for your team, it can be frustrating at times, because to me, college baseball is one of those things where you still have that ability not to show up. You play so many games, and you could win 5 or 6 in a row, and then all of a sudden the wheels come off, and you don't know what happened. Opposite example is a team like Southern Miss and Coastal, and those teams who finished the season on 15, 20-game runs. So it's very streaky, I would say, college baseball.
And for Bulldogs fans, wrapped up in the tournament play is the news that a new coach is likely to be officially named. I would guess after State is done with their season, after whenever it may be, whenever they lose is when I would expect they would announce. But it looks like the Virginia coach.
Yeah, exactly. If it's the Virginia coach, but I'm not sure who they'll end up with. I know that there's speculation. A lot of stuff happens in the last minutes, but it sounds to me like they've kind of figured out what they want. But, State plays Northeastern, a team that nobody really knows a lot about. They have had a great season. They pitch it really, really well. And so, you get here, and everybody gets here for a reason, though. Everybody's played through 50, 60 games and have earned their right, whether winning a conference tournament or auto buy-in or just having a great season. Northeastern, though, a team that is going to come in and give State a shot. And Florida State has Bethune-Cookman. I doubt Bethune-Cookman's going to put up much of a fight. So, if State does their business, handles it right, they'll be playing Florida State, a team that was in the top 10 pretty much all season. And the coach for Florida State, was the head coach at Notre Dame for many years, Link Jarrett. They had a great program there. He's a Florida State guy. But the last time, there was this State and Notre Dame, they had some battles there for a bit back a few years ago.
As you're telling me all of this, all I hear is Charlie Brown's teacher. I just don't know anything at all about.
Well, I'm saying this, so there's some history.
I'm going to watch the game.
There's some history.
I'm going to enjoy a baseball game and not have to worry about all these minute details that you know about. And I'm not knocking you for knowing them. I just have not followed it that closely.
State and Florida State, though, there is a history there, a recent history with the coach at Florida State, and so it ought to be a fun series because there is some, not bad blood or anything, but there's a history there between Mississippi State and the coach. So pulling for all the guys. They all have, everybody.
I too. I want to see all the teams do well.
And then Ole Miss women's making the College World Series. Goodness, that's really
fantastic.
Cool.
I've got some headlines I want to get to in just a minute. How's the weather looking around the state for this weekend as we go into what I hope is a nice 3 days?
Well, I mean, there are going to be opportunities at showers. I know through the Delta, hit and miss a little bit. I'm hoping that we won't have really any major rain coming through that will kibosh any of the whole weekend. But, as it is this time of year, there's stuff moving in from the west. Nothing here yet. Beautiful day so far on the horizon. And hopefully everything will get played today. As far as tomorrow goes, I mean, you got a front coming through, a pretty nice little storm around Dallas and over the northern part of Louisiana and southern Arkansas, which will be moving through the day. So I don't know tomorrow. That's going to be one of those. We'll have to kind of look at it as the day goes, as this storm does seem to be moving pretty quickly, and we'll be hitting the center of the state. And then there's one behind that is a pretty long storm coming around the Gulf of America that may affect the southern part of the state on Saturday midday or later in the day.
Today is International Hug Your Cat Day, and I'm sure if you're watching the live stream at supertalk.fm, at some point my cat, my sidekick Tiger, will make an appearance. I may hug him, he may scratch me, we'll see what happens. Also, Lance, I just noticed it's Tom Morello's birthday. Maybe we can get some Rage Against the Machine to wake us up here before 7 o'clock. I'm Scott Sands in for Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Hey, you don't know me, but you don't like me. Say you care less how I feel. But how many of you that sit and judge me ever walk the streets of Bakersfield?
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Reading I'm going, baby there, going to Memphis, see that what it's about.
Scott Sands in for Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. I guess the big story across the state, finally, the Mississippi legislature got the budget deal done in the special session. 2 days to approve the state's $7 billion budget. Business concluded last night around 6, and I think the governor has about 15 days to make any changes under his constitutional authority or sign the bill and get it done. A little contention between the chambers and the state legislature. The Senate upset that the House sent them a bill and then left town. Look, if you want to get things done the way you want them done, that's the way to do it. I'm not sure that's the best way for the state, but it's certainly a power move for the state representatives. Here's what we did. You can deal with this on your own. We're out of here. The deal cost about $100,000 per day, and Governor Tate Reeves does have 15 days to act either by approval. He's got the line item veto available, or he can allow the budget to become law without action. An interesting tweet from the governor yesterday afternoon before the business was done saying, hey, just do this. We've identified a few minor items that are concerning and a few of the over 100 bills that must be passed. I believe it's important that the Senate pass these bills, as is to get the session completed, and I will use my constitutional authority to deal with the concerning items to protect Mississippi citizens, businesses, and taxpayers. Best thing for taxpayers is no doubt for the special session to be wrapped up today and I appreciate everyone working to get with us to get that accomplished. It's now done. We'll talk to State Senator Bart Williams about that next hour. Some of the bills that were decided yesterday, HB 33 will pay $600,000 for a pilot program for public defenders in rural areas. House Bill 20 will pay nearly $93 million for the Department of Human Services. HB 6, about $360,000 for expenses of the Grand Gulf Military Monument Commission and upgrades. $16 million increase in funding for the Mississippi Student Funding Formula, including funding to cover increases in educators' health insurance premiums and the retirement system. And HB 50 will pay $2.5 million to go to the victims of human trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation. There were a lot of other bills wrapped up in this, some of them policy issues, and that caused part of the contention between the two chambers of the state legislature. If you're watching this story on the coast, as the Tuesday municipal elections approach, the Attorney General's office is now investigating Sonia Williams-Barnes' campaign for mayor of Gulfport. She's the Democrat after allegations that residents had received meal vouchers in exchange for voting. Mike Hurst, who was on with us last week, who's also chair of the Republican Party, said that he asked the DA, the Attorney General, to investigate this vote buying, saying it's something that strikes at the heart of our democracy. Voters and votes should not be for sale. This happens quite frequently and usually flies under the radar and is certainly problematic. The Democrats are saying is all we're saying is go out and vote. As far as me telling somebody who to vote for, no, you're not directly telling people who to vote for, but I think it's pretty implied, Lance. I think if you've got a mayoral candidate feeding you, giving you gifts, taking you to the polls, the ask is pretty implicit, in my opinion. And we'll follow up with that Monday on the morning show before the election.
Same kind of concept as donations to campaigns, right? I mean, if a big entity gives $1 million to a campaign, I believe they hope that candidate's going to kind of work with them, and it's similar. Right. And you go buy somebody food and have a party for them. I doubt that you're doing that so they vote for the opponent that you're not supporting.
No, I mean the whole. And look, I'm all for free speech, but the entire campaign finance and political lobbying system is so shady. All of these backroom deals are happening every day, and we look at how enriched, especially at the federal level, elected officials become in such a short period of time. And Elon Musk, who, by the way, has a press conference with the president today at 12:30 Central, has pointed out some of that abuse and waste and fraud, and has been criticized by the people receiving the waste, fraud, and abuse. You try to close that system. I'm not saying we should get rid of all the dark money in campaigning or ban lobbying, but certainly the whole system needs to be reformed. And unfortunately, the people with the power to reform the system are the ones benefiting from all of this dark money that's available. So we know nothing's ever going to get done.
It kind of reminds me of the climate of college sports before NIL, where people were getting paid. It was just McDonald's bags full of money, and It was under the table, and everybody was dealing with a handler or the reverend or whomever, the uncle. So it wasn't direct. It very shady. And so they go, hey, let's get rid of that and let's go with a new system. And
it's all out in the open now, and it's become the Wild West. I think it's even worse now than it was when it was happening behind the scenes.
Well, it probably is in terms of the pay-for-play mindset, because it is out in the open. I think you're paying for play. But, we go back. We don't want to say that for some reason. And I think we're saying the same thing about these types of entities that go, hey, let's buy lunch and get these. You're not saying that we're telling you to vote for somebody, but that's what you're doing. I mean, it's like I said, it's implied, but we're all pretty smart people, too. I think most folks understand. That's how it works. It doesn't make it right. And like you said, if you fix something, you better have a better solution, or it can get worse.
Yeah, you put you make NIL, and I could go on a rant for hours. As little as I know about college baseball, I've got a lot of opinions about NIL and the transfer portal, and it's killing my love, especially for football and what we're saying. There's no loyalty. but I'm not going to go on that tangent. At least not today. I got a whole week to fill in for Richard. I'm sure we can find time to get into that, especially as the SEC meetings are concluding today, I believe. This story has not gotten the attention it probably deserves. At least 3 city-killing asteroids that could strike Earth are hiding behind our closest neighbor in the solar system. Have you even seen this headline, Lance?
No, I haven't seen that one.
These stories pop up every once in a while, and
They're
nothing
good
seems
ones.
to happen. But Venus is blocking the planet Venus is blocking our view of apparently a lot of near-Earth asteroids, which is kind of dangerous. We'd like to know when something's heading our way. And 3 of these asteroids in particular have orbits that take them dangerously close to Earth. And even worse, the asteroids don't follow perfectly stable paths, meaning any kind of gravitational change could shift their course and pull them closer towards Earth.
I don't like the way that sounds because Venus being the morning star, we know who the morning star is in mythology and in religion. That would be Lucifer, right? So anything hiding back over there behind Venus doesn't really make me comfortable that it's a positive. But, such is life. These things happen, and goodness gracious, who knows what's going on out there, right? I'm surprised that we haven't been pelted with hundreds and thousands of satellites, just falling out of the sky at some point. Considering there
are so many satellites that they're putting in orbit, especially now with Starlink and the new Golden Dome that we talked about last week. But we're due. I'm kind of a nerd, and I'll watch a lot of these shows on Discovery and the History Channel. And I think I've talked about that before. The Earth gets hit by a comet or an asteroid on a regular basis, like every 25, 50,000 years, and it's been more than 50,000 years.
Well, you look at the moon.
So we're due for it at some point.
Yeah, you look at the moon. Goodness gracious. It's just pockmarked with just getting pulverized all the time. And we're very fortunate that the stuff, we have such an atmosphere that can burn up a lot of this stuff because there's so much more coming through that we don't even know about. Because it's not, the size that's going to matter. It burns up. But some of these bigger pieces, they can cause a mess. And
one of these asteroids,
you're right, we may be due for something.
One of these 3 that could hit us, we just don't know because we can't see them, could create a crater over 2 miles wide and release over 1 million times more energy than the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima in 1945. Just have a great Friday. Maybe it'll hit by Sunday and we won't have to go to work next week. I don't know.
I would rather go to work personally. Me.
Right.
That's just me throwing it out there. But if something like that happens, we wouldn't know about it anyway. They would.
Yeah, it would just be. It would all be over. I think if it hit, I would rather it hit my city than have to deal with the aftermath. I don't want to be one of the zombies of survivors in the apocalypse.
You had your COVID shots. You're good. Yeah.
I'm not a prepper, so I think I have a case of MREs from COVID that and ammunition. That's my survival. I don't have a bunker or anywhere to go hide. So I just hit me.
You'd be like a dog and start digging. Just start digging.
just get it over with. And quickly, the SEC has officially announced. Greg Sankey said yesterday at the spring meetings. A fine of $500,000 will be across the board, raising the fine from $100,000 for anybody who storms the field, rushes the court. Field rushing is field rushing the first time or the 18th time. So trying to crack down on safety issues.
And there's also a good
teams $500,000 now.
One good piece of news before we break was the college football decrease. The Mike Leach. It'll be $595 will be the percentage they'll allow you in now instead of $600.
Yeah, that's great news, and I did want to talk about that at some point this morning as well. Got your lottery numbers coming up here on Super Talk Mississippi. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Scott Sands.
You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on Super Talk Mississippi.
Ready to go with your lottery numbers and all the money you could win this weekend from some of these drawings. No jackpot winner in Lotto America. The next jackpot tomorrow night, $37.22 million, cash value of $16.36 million. If you missed the numbers on Wednesday, 4, 6, 8, 33, 35, Starball 5, and the bonus multiplier 2. It's another one of those numbers. I think we talked about this last Friday, Lance, where you wouldn't pick those 5 numbers manually. If you're doing an auto pick, that might come up, but you're not going to pick so many low numbers and then 2 numbers that are so close together. All of those are 2 numbers apart. It's kind of odd. It's kind of unless they have special meaning to you for some reason.
You got like 5 kids and right. All that stuff. Yeah, not me. I'd have to go with a random generator because I've never seen any grouping of numbers that I would have picked.
Same thing in the Powerball. There was no jackpot winner in the Powerball either. 23, 27, 32, 35, 59, Powerball 11. That jackpot now tomorrow night, $207 million, cash value $91 million. I could do a little something with that.
Yeah, I could play with that now. Double play numbers from Wednesday the 28th, 1430, 41, 48, 69, Powerball of 12. I see why nobody won that one. Mega Millions also no jackpot winner, up to $189 million. You got a drawing tonight, Friday, May the 30th. It is going to pay you $82.7 million to take home. And then you got some taxes on that. But the numbers from that, 6, 28, 34, 48, 62, Mega Ball of 9. And that was the last drawing on the Tuesday, May 27th.
Mississippi Match 5, no jackpot winner. Cash, the jackpot tonight, $925,000. Last night's drawing numbers, 14, 19, 22, 29, 35. The Match 5, the Mississippi Match 5 jackpot, a record-breaking $925,000 now, the largest in the Mississippi Match 5 game history. The exclusive in-state draw game is only $2 to play, and drawings every night at 9:30. Mississippi Match 5 features a rolling jackpot that keeps climbing until there's a winner. The biggest jackpot hit before today was $905,000 back in 2023. You can play the Mississippi Match 5, at any authorized Mississippi lottery retailer. You can visit mslottery.com for all of that information. And the final drawing of the Pink Panther Diamond Tripler bonus promotion has wrapped. A few lucky Mississippians scored big. $25,000 went to a winner in Jackson, $15,000 to a winner in Manti in Webster County, $10,000 to a winner also in Jackson, plus $100 digital gift cards are heading to people in South Haven, Tutwiler, Hattiesburg, Petal, and Columbia. And remember, if you entered the bonus promotion, your entry automatically rolls into the game's second chance drawing for a chance at $100,000 when the game ends. All of the lottery bonus promotions are available at mslottery.com. You want to start with these Thursday winners, Lance?
Yeah, I want to say one thing about Match 5, though. $925,000, folks. Okay, that was 2 years ago. I was sitting right here and we were debating on, is this thing going to hit $1 million? Trust me, go get your tickets because it's never been this high before. That is pretty good indicator that you can't win it if you don't buy the ticket. So that is my little spiel. But
so it sounds like somebody is due to win.
Yeah, you're due at this point, right? It doesn't get this high. It never has. So
I'm not saying we'll have a winner tonight.
It's coming.
It's getting due.
It's coming. All right. Cash for winners, players from Mobile, Alabama, and Laurel each won $1,350 on tickets from Midway Food Mart, Moss Point, and Clark Oil Company, 47 in Laurel. They had a cash pop winner also. Players from Booneville and Marion each won $1,000 on tickets from Junior Food Mart in Booneville and the Shell Food Mart number 9 in Marion, Mississippi.
Forest woman won just over $1,000 on a ticket from Forest Red Apple Taxco and Forest. A lot of Match 5 winners, players from Ethel, Ruleville, Jackson, Accru, New Hebron, Hulka. That's a new one. Did I get those two right?
No, no. Ecru, New Hebron, and then Hulka. Yeah, those 3 in a row were rough for you there, buddy. Yeah.
Flowood and that. Look, I lived there for 10 years in some of these cities.
Will our boss is a Hulka guy, so yeah, got to get that one.
They all got $800 on tickets from Kangaroo Crossing in Kosciuszko, Double Quick in Ruleville, Don Gabrielle Market in Jackson, Walmart Superstore in Pontotoc, JR Food Mart in Florence, P-Town Express in Pontotoc, Lakeland Red Apple Texaco in Flowood, and 61 Express in Natchez. The Saltillo woman won $820 on a ticket from Sun Express in Tupelo. A Brookhaven woman won $880 on a ticket from Marathon in Jackson. Players from Braxton and Terry each scored $1,000 on tickets from Fastmart in Hattiesburg and Circle K in Hattiesburg. And a Myrtle man won $1,800 on 2 tickets from Tony's 2 in New Albany. Lucky guy.
Yeah, well, we had a big one here. A Bay St. Louis woman on the $5 Big Money Bingo winner, $25K in the pocket. Purchased that ticket at Be Quick #1 in Brookhaven. Also had another sizable victory here for Livingston, Louisiana woman. $5, 20 times the money. Won $10,000 on the ticket with Rion's #1 in Picayune.
A lot of other winners, too. Play the Mississippi Match 5 tonight. That jackpot's getting big. You can get all of the information online, mslottery.com. Super Talk Mississippi News and Fox News coming up at the top of the hour. We'll get the latest from State Senator Bart Williams on the wrap of the special session next hour. And we'll talk about marching bands with my buddy Tony Lymon next here on Super Talk Mississippi. I'm Scott Sands.
When you're gone, kiss an angel good morning, and love her like the devil when you get back home. Well, people may try to guess the secret of a happy...
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Waking up Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
This is either one of the greatest bands you've never heard of or one of your favorite bands from college frat parties and bars if you grew up in the 90s and 2000s in Mississippi. I'll let this play for a second.
Conceiving a new angel child to live 1,000 years. The handle on this sanity broken. I guess I slipped away. Just give me something good. Give me something finer than what I need.
And playing the Malacat right there is our next guest, Tony Lymon from the band King Conga, and now doing great things across Mississippi and around the country with bands. Tony, it's so great to see you, my friend. It's been a while.
Scott, it is so great for us to finally connect again. It's been a long time since we've been in the same room, even if it's virtual.
And it was probably at one of the last King Conga shows in Hattiesburg, if I had to guess.
I think so. I think that was the last time, many moons ago.
It's so great to see you and all the guys still continuing with music, and you're really making just such a huge impact with kids who have a passion for music, especially in Mississippi. I know you were with pedal bands for a while, and you've just launched this great company on pageantry arts, Zero2Hero, that I want to talk. Tell us about how you got interested in working with bands, and I probably could have sent Lance a picture of you in marching bands to show on supertalk.fm.
Well, little known fact, King Conga actually started from the marching band of Southern Miss. All of us were in the marching band in the Pride of Mississippi. And one day, the lead singer, Dan Hannon, asked if, hey, we want to play this frat party. And I was like, well, at the time, I was a music major, and I was aspiring to be a timpanist in a symphony orchestra. And I was like, man, I don't do that kind of thing.
I don't do rock and roll.
Playing that kind of stuff. I don't do that. He was like, well, exactly. And he was like, well, we're going to get like $250 a piece. And I was like, I am now a rock and roll musician. Let's go. And I didn't know any of the songs. I had to like listen to them and like write down what it was. Because we were a cover band at the time. You know, we were just going to play some covers, make some money and all of that. And then it turned into what we know to be what that all led to with King Conga.
It's so great. So, you know, I don't mean this despairingly. You know, I love you. Marching band performers often get labeled as nerds sometime, but they play such an important part of the spirit and the morale for teams, for schools in high school, college, and really are an important part of the culture at these schools.
Yeah, and you know, full disclosure, King Conga, we were band nerds all along. We just never let that cat out of the bag. But you know, It is how we've been depicted in movies and in TV shows. You know, you got the nerd that's getting stuffed in the locker with his trombone or whatever. But you know, part of what I'm doing with this Zero2Hero Pageantry Arts platform is I'm just kind of shining some light on how much work that goes into it and how much skill it goes into. We're there before any of the sports teams wake up, and we're there after they go to bed. It takes so much effort to get all of those people coordinated and to learn their instruments and to do all those intricate things you see on the field.
Well, not only do you have to be able to play, but you've got to learn the choreography that has gotten extremely elaborate in these days. I mean, obviously there are bands around the country like the $1 Million Band at the University of Alabama and the Ohio State Marching Band and their Script Ohio. But even in high schools now, the choreography has gotten extremely elaborate, and you've got pyrotechnics and a bunch of stuff happening.
It's crazy now. You know, it isn't your father's marching band anymore, I guess, so to speak. Somewhere around the mid 90s to early 2000s, a Drum Corps International, which is like if you go pro in sports, you go to the NFL, the MLB, or the NFL, or the NHL. But for marching band, it's DCI, Drum Corps International, and that is almost like marching band on steroids. And so in that activity, the introduction of props and then electronics and then you know, video technology and lighting, and so around that time, it just became this elaborate thing. And so high school marching bands started to pick up on this. Right after my time at King Conga is when I got back into that on the design level, because there's very few people that design this stuff. And I found it to where all of the things that I was doing with King Conga were now finding their way in marching band. And so now you can see, like, if you're a music major learning to teach people how to play flutes and stuff, and then all of a sudden you're tasked with putting on a Super Bowl halftime with pyrotechnics, there's no school for that. And that's kind of what my platform is all about, is to teach people, to kind of ease people into what's important about that.
So what does go into it, and what are you doing? The company that you've started is Zero2Hero Pageantry Arts. 2-hero.com is your website. Are you working with schools just in Mississippi, or are you working with people around the country?
No, I'm working with schools and bands and professional pageantry organizations all over the world. In fact, I just got back from Japan in December. But I work with groups all over the country, and it's basically targeting a lot of the people that are in charge of those groups who want to elevate those show design but don't have the skills, because as of yet, there's no school you can go to. You don't go to college for marching band design right now, but when you get signed on to do this, you're very much tasked with doing that. And the competitive scene with it that's involved with it is unreal. On the high school level, it all culminates to the Bands of America Grand National Competition that happens at Lucas Oil Stadium every year. And the level of skill that high school kids are doing today is out of this world.
So who's doing it right in Mississippi? I know you're especially proud of your kids from Petal and some of the other schools that you've worked with.
Actually, I'm not at Petal anymore, but right. I'm now with Gulfport High School, who does it really well at the high level. Germantown High School in Madison, Mississippi, or Gluckstadt, as they would say. They're really doing it at the high level. And a lot of the schools in the DeSoto County area are really, really, really doing some fantastic things. So yeah, it's if you notice now, bands aren't showing up with just yellow school buses. They're showing up with 18-wheelers with their logos on it. And I kind of started that trend in Mississippi when I was at Petal. You know, we wanted to have the biggest and best things that we could have. But now that's almost standard. If you're in that competitive domain, you've got a semi-trailer full of stuff. And it's like putting on a mini Super Bowl halftime show every Friday night.
So why are the bands not involved, and maybe they are, and I'm not aware of this, with with the baseball games. You've got band involvement in just about every other sport. Is it too disruptive? We got the regionals going on. You're in Hattiesburg. Southern Miss is playing. Drag out the USM band.
You know what I think? I think it's because, since the genesis of marching band started with football, and it was, essentially that's the reason why we do it on a football field. It was to cheer on the football team, and then someone said, "Hey, why don't we march around on the field?" Baseball happens after that, and there's so many things involved with band. You have concert season, and you have all of these community events. By the time it gets to baseball season, the band just wants a break. I think that is it. But I have advocated forever. I wanted a marching band for the golf team. I've always wanted this.
That would be disruptive, but fun. The problem with band, there's no real halftime at baseball. Look, Tony, we got about a minute here for parents, grandparents who have kids who are interested in music. What's the best path to get involved with band and pick up an instrument?
Well, I think just getting involved and supporting your local band programs on the scholastic level. That's where it all starts. That's the training ground. That's where you really get that sense of a foundation for that's the minor leagues, I guess. In the middle school, you have to learn how to play your instrument before you can march around. So anytime the band has any event, support it. Go buy the tickets, buy the T-shirts, and scream just as loud for the band as you do for the football team.
What's the easiest instrument for a kid to pick up for the first time?
Woo, that's very hard because I'm gonna be polarizing here. I don't know if there's an easy instrument. There isn't one. They're all equally as difficult. But I will say the smartest people play drums.
Yeah, of course you would say that. Tony Lymon, Zero2Hero Pageantry Arts. Learn more at 2-hero.com, and we'll wrap it up with some old school King Kong. And Tony Lymon, I love you. It's great to see you.
Good to see you too, Scott. Take care.
I'm Scott Sands in for Richard Cross. Super Talk Mississippi continues next.
I give what would I trade? It's a question of passion that it is. I love you, girl, or excuse me, miss. Did I get by?
From the Venable.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
State Senator Bart Williams joins us in about 15 minutes here on Super Talk Mississippi. This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough. And if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you are not alone. And that's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services and a custom plan that fits you. Call them today, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. I'm Scott Sands in for Richard this morning. I was just telling Lance off the air that it must have been a tweet or something because I saw the S&P pre-market dropped about 40, 50 points in one candle. And Lance rightly points out it's probably something to do with tariffs because that has been an up and down roller coaster. A day after a special trade court put President Trump's Liberation Day tariffs on hold, a federal judge in D.C. did the same in a separate matter, expanding it to other tariffs issued this year by Trump. In a case brought by two Illinois children's toy companies, Judge Rudolph Contreras declared the Trump tariffs unlawful. We figured out the Democrat game plan at this point in 2020. It was impeach, 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 and now it's sue. Take them to courts, take them to favorable courts, and get some of the Trump policies paused or delayed or canceled and try to run out the clock. Like the decision in the trade court case, this judge, Contreras, found that the International Economic Emergency Economic Powers Act does not authorize the president to impose the tariffs, but this ruling deals with more than just the Liberation Day, April 2nd tariffs from Trump. It puts on hold tariffs imposed by Trump on February 1, March 3, April 2nd, April 8th, April 9th. Most of them deal with tariffs on China. tied to questions about synthetic opioids and other illegal drugs coming into the U.S. Republican lawmakers in Congress said very little about the court rulings against Trump. Those who did tried to downplay the legal issues. President Trump held his tongue for a full 24 hours, which is frankly unusual for him, and then sent out a lengthy airing of grievances on Truth Social, saying hopefully the Supreme Court will reverse this horrible, country-threatening decision. He also complained about the 3 judges who made the decision and called out the Federalist Society by name, since most of those judges were recommended to him by the Federalist Society. They were actually Trump-appointed judges, so he's blaming the Federalist Society for recommending those particular judges. Yesterday, officials at the White House condemned the court ruling as judicial overreach, which it definitely is. Courts really shouldn't have a role here. And those lines being amplified again by top White House officials. Stephen Miller, the deputy chief of staff, said, we live under judicial tyranny. The judges on this case, as I mentioned, were appointed by Trump, as well as Reagan and Obama, and they all agreed that Trump's exercise of unlimited tariff authority is unconstitutional. A judge appointed by Trump said his indiscriminate tariffs are illegal. But because this was a roller coaster yesterday, the White House did win a temporary victory before a federal appeals court, which reinstated the tariffs while the court examines the case in the next 2 weeks. All of these tariff cases will make their way eventually to the Supreme Court at some point this summer. The court's term usually ends in late June, but this might keep the justices working. The other frustrating part of all of this that's happening in Washington, D.C. politically is that we have not seen any of these cuts that Doge and Elon Musk have recommended, and Elon Musk officially leaving, his time as a temporary special employee of the White House coming to an official end. He was by law being required to leave that office at the end of this term. There is a press conference with President Trump and Elon Musk at the White House today at 12:30, and I would expect Donald Trump's not going to try to burn any bridges here, even though Elon Musk has been pretty critical, especially of Congress, for not, following through with anything that we, the voters, sent them to Washington to do, and that was cut spending. The voters around the country, I believe, are getting increasingly aggravated, if you watch any of the feedback on X, at the lack of budget cuts. And there are very few members of Congress who are acknowledging that. Rand Paul is one of them, saying we need lawmakers to stop leaving their spine at the door and start saying no. That was in Iowa, where the Des Moines Register headline was this: Paul dismisses Republican spending cuts as wimpy and anemic. Pretty accurate. The biggest warning sign for the big, beautiful bill is probably how it impacts the federal deficit. No question, and I will admit this, and I am happy. We talked about this last week, I think, Lance. The big, beautiful bill passed and had some important aspects to it, including making the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act permanent, but it does impact the federal deficit, and that was not addressed by Congress, and technically in a reconciliation package, it's hard to adjust policy, but the spending is going to increase the deficit by $12 trillion. And there are numbers that go back and forth, but I mean, that's almost real money.
Yeah, that's almost a lottery, huh? Goodness gracious. We're talking about trillions like we're throwing pennies around nowadays.
Maybe we should take the billions of dollars Doge has actually saved and buy some Mississippi lottery tickets and see if we can pay off that deficit.
I can understand the frustration by Elon Musk and the hard work he did and becoming a target, doing this work more of in a volunteer capacity, having a staff of young men and women that were thrown into the fray to go dig around and find graft, greed, and corruption, which they did. And what's been done about it? Nothing.
Did nothing. It's so frustrating. The work of Doge will continue. There are still those staffers. I think officially Doge will continue operations until summer of 2026. But even if they continue to point out this waste, fraud, and abuse, you got to actually act on it. And once you're elected, this is true of both parties, you don't want to slash your own wrists. You don't want to cut your own spending. I would like to say, if you have any interest in this at all, the copy of the House-passed budget reconciliation bill is finally available to the public on the Congress.gov website. It is, however, 1,038 pages, which is far too long for a bill. The table of contents alone, I looked at this. I haven't read it, and I don't know that anybody actually has. Table of contents itself is 12 pages long. So right now the Senate staff is scrubbing through the bill, looking for any policy-only provisions which don't have a budget impact, because that would not pass muster with the Byrd rule and would need to be stripped of this. So that's a big aspect of what's going to be happening for the next couple of weeks. They're still trying to target like a July 4th deadline to get this done and on the president's desk. I hope it happens. And more importantly than that, I hope that now that the House has passed their version of the budget bill, they'll start looking at some of these cuts and actually take some action. If they don't, I think that's going to put a lot of Republican seats in jeopardy in the midterms because, as I've said, the clock is ticking on this.
Well, yeah, and I think it goes back to is where you started this conversation, the IEEPA. You know, is one of the things says, and it's interesting, the court said Mr. Trump's global 10% tariffs aren't authorized by the IEEPA because they're designed to deal with trade imbalances between the U.S. and the rest of the world, which judges said should fall under non-emergency legislation. So I guess my point is let's say you want to codify all of these cuts. Think about all the layers and local judges and federal judges and all this junk you're going to have to go through just to actually get a cut put into law. If you're having this amount of trouble just taxing people who are unfairly charging us.
And look, I think the court has a valid point that the president alone should not be the one enacting all of these policies, but he's doing the job we elected him to do because Congress will not do it.
There we go. So is that that's where I'm going.
And you know, part of the reason why this is what is driving me nuts. Some of the quotes I've seen from members of Congress are, we're working around the clock to pursue President Trump's Make America First agenda. No, you're really not, because you're only working like 13 days in the month of June. If you really wanted to get this done and recognize the fact that the clock is ticking, you would be there every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, or like Elon Musk was during his time at Doge, to get these policies codified and turned into law while you've got a slim majority before you lose it.
Do you really think there's an appetite for it, though? Is there in Congress?
Is
there an appetite for it?
With the general public, absolutely. I think I saw a number that's 65-70%.
Isn't Congress representative of the people, though? Isn't Congress? Didn't we elect them?
No.
It didn't work that way, did it?
That's where you're mistaken. Yeah. Once you're elected, you're there to protect your own interests and power, and so it's just a mess, and it's frustrating as somebody who is a fiscal hawk and wants to see these cuts made, not at to the detriment of Americans who may need assistance, but to just get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse and rein in spending. And Congress is working essentially a part-time job and not getting it done. You can follow me on X at Scott Sands Media. I've shared some more of my thoughts there. And I'm watching this story closely. There are budget issues in Mississippi, too. Finally passed the state legislature yesterday. We'll talk to State Senator Bart Williams about that next year on Super Talk Mississippi. It's Mornings with Richard Cross. I'm Scott Sands.
Segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome to the show.
Keep everything in the farm, upset in every way.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. I'm Scott Sands on X at Scott Sands Media. C-Spire text line open as well, 601-879-4395. State Senator Bart Williams, representing District 15, is joining us now on Super Talk Mississippi. It's nice to meet you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
You too, Scott. Great to be here. Thank you for having me this morning.
You know, I should start with this. Next hour, we've got the mayors from Hattiesburg and Oxford joining us to talk about the baseball regionals. You're kind of representing Starkville and will be our Mississippi State delegate and fan for the morning show today. An exciting time for baseball in the state, right?
Absolutely, it is. And yes, I bleed maroon, of course, evidenced by my shirt, but we've got to root for Mississippi, and it's great to be hosting 2 regionals, and hopefully we'll get there next year.
Sorry to admit this to you, but I am an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, and today I chose powder blue to wear for Ole Miss. I didn't have any state or USM gear, and this was about as close to representing a team in the state as I could find today. But I'm not rooting against Mississippi State. One of my high school friends became Bully, the mascot, after high school when he went to Mississippi State. One of my other friends was actually the Golden Eagle at USM. So ties to all the schools in the state, and it should be a great playoff series in all the regionals.
We sure hope so.
So on a serious note, you got it done. Special session wrapped up after 2 days. Budget's going to go to the governor. Tell us what that process was like and why you couldn't get it done in the regular session.
Well, during the regular session, we as a body, the House and the Senate, didn't get it all done. We had what's called conference weekend, and we didn't make the deadlines there to have all our budgets turned in, signed, and done. We had about 80% of them, 85% of them negotiated. I am a chair of a subcommittee on appropriations, and I've got about 6 budgets. And I had talked with my counterparts in the House and the leadership, and we'd pretty much had those budgets negotiated. So most of the work was done. We just really didn't get the administrative part of it done prior to, which required us to come back in session. And fortunately, we spent a couple of days and got it done. A few bumps along the way, which is pretty typical. As we say, the sausage usually turns out pretty good, but making it is a process.
So it seems like a lot of the tension was around local project funding. How were they resolved, or were they? Did you just decide to agree to disagree?
I think we decided to agree to disagree. There were no local projects funded this year. This is my 5th session, and every year I've been in the legislature, we've had capital X money. Basically, we wrote checks for local projects where we could do anything from, like volunteer fire departments, some road upgrades and things that we're allowing some state money to be allocated for local uses, which has been very good. In light of things going on, number one, we eliminated the income tax, so we know that that's going to give us a haircut on our budget as we go forward.
I mean, the
feds have come in, as you were talking about.
The elimination of the state income tax is a model that other states should be following. That needs to be done. I think it's going to be an economic boost for the state.
I do too. I've been kind of mixed as we've gone through it. As we have completed that and looked back on it, I just think it continues to put us in leadership to expand economic development and those things. The leadership and executive and legislative branches, I applaud their guidance in us getting this accomplished as well.
So I know that the House Speaker, Jason White, was disappointed for some of the local projects that weren't funded, mainly concerned about infrastructure, bridges, roads, things like that, which are beginning to fail across the state. How quickly will you be able to address that in the next session, and will the money be there?
I think that I have some of the same disappointment. I mean, I had local asks that I would like to have gotten funded for the people, that I predominantly work for of District 15. Again, trying to be fiscally conservative, I think, is kind of what won out on that. As you talk about it, as we did the elimination of the income tax, reduction of the grocery tax, and many things in that bill, there's a gas tax that will be there, and that's permanent funding for roads and maintenance on our road system, which is our biggest outside of people, our biggest asset, $60 billion of roads that MDOT has to maintain. As we go back in session each year, it's top of shelf of what buckets we get money out of to fund infrastructure. We don't have enough. But we've got the ERBR, Emergency Road and Bridge Restoration Fund, and different things. So we go into session with that top of shelf, and hopefully it stays at the top. It's a big priority to me is funding those things. Because if we leave it unfunded, we end up 10, 15 years in a PERS situation where we've got a several $billion-dollar deficit that we've got to attack, and we don't want to be there.
No, not at all. You want to be responsible with the money, and I know I've been following Chad White on X. He's happy that some of the MOJ funding was approved after a little bit of a delay there. And the state, I think, is doing a terrific job on pointing out and cutting some of this waste, fraud, and abuse at a state level. I wish the federal government and Congress would follow through at a national level in D.C. With what Mississippi is doing. We're talking to State Senator Bart Williams here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Some of the funding, I talked about this last hour, $16 million for the Mississippi Student Funding Formula, and $2.5 million for victims of human trafficking. How were those investments significant and reflect the priorities of the legislature this year?
Well, I think education's always, again, been one of our top priorities. If you look at the gains the state's made over the last 10 years with the third grade reading gate and other metrics, that we've gone from 49th to 50th to 25th, right in the middle of the pack of the nation. And that's called the Mississippi Miracle.
It is, and that's an amazing, astonishing growth rate. I'd like to see that done in other grade levels as well, not just third grade level.
We're trying to expand that and look at funding in different areas so we can keep that all the way and have more college-ready kids. You know, we've got the enrollment cliff that's coming because of a population decline that's going on. So by producing more college-ready kids is one way we can augment that, and we're having a lot of conversations about that. To pivot to your the $2.5 million for human trafficking, people just don't realize things that are going on in front of us. You know, we've got many major universities in this state. We've got the community colleges. So we've got a lot of areas that are prime for these type of predators to go in. So any of the dollars that we can allocate for that to help offset that and fight that, you know, is a must, I think, in our state.
You know, last week I was talking about how human trafficking, illegal immigration, crime, the gang problem that we're seeing in Jackson and other cities, yes. The drugs that are coming into the state. You've got Highway 49, you've got I-10, you've got many routes through the state. Mississippi's not getting the focus of that as a problem as many other states are, but it's certainly something that the legislature and local law enforcement has been addressing pretty strongly.
Absolutely. The number one pillar, I think, as a public servant, our responsibility is public safety. It takes on all different forms, obviously allocating the resources and doing the legislation where our job comes in. DPS is doing a good job as well, the Attorney General. I think everybody's very cognitive of it. You know, you can never do enough, but sometimes when you're kind of in a safe community, things are just, you get complacent, and we don't need to take that for granted because, you know, these abductions are happening in our state.
I saw the governor's post on X yesterday, his tweet, saying that he would use his constitutional authority to address concerning items in the budget bill through line items vetoes if needed. Were there specific concerns that you or your Senate colleagues have and maybe discussed with Tate Reeves?
Yeah, there were several, and through the leadership of the Senate, they were discussing with the governor, and we're really glad that communication went on yesterday as we went through the process. In the Medicaid bill, there was one component that's about $2 million that the attorneys have advised us that might be violating federal law. And obviously that's something that we, from a legislative standpoint, don't want to do. From the standpoint of expeditiousness, getting out, saving that $100,000 a day in session, we decided with the governor and the lieutenant governor's advice is let's pass this. He can use the line item veto to take care of it. So it's kind of been vetted out. There again, we want to be good stewards of the people's money, and short of having to have a second special session, that was the mechanism we used to deal with that. There were some technical things that got caught, and just when you're doing everything, especially in 2 days, you've got 100 bills, those things happen. In the absence of the House being present, that was the path we chose, and with the communication and collaboration with the executive branch, we were able to do that. And I think that just really worked very, very smoothly so that we can get done. Sine die is the last thing we hear at the end of session. That means without a day. And from my perspective, thank the Lord, we have sine die.
Right. Well, 2 days is pretty efficient. I mean, it was still a couple $100,000 in extra expenses, but you got it done. You got it done quickly. You mentioned that the House left town. That was an interesting maneuver. How did you and your colleagues on the state Senate side feel about that? The House did their job, and then just sent it over to the Senate and said, "Hey, we're done with this. It's your ball now." Was that a smart maneuver, or did that create even more tension between the two chambers?
Well, as I alluded to a moment ago, the making of the sausage is not the prettiest thing in the world. The packages usually come out pretty good. In the midst of the moment, it kind of felt like we got slapped in the face. The House does what the House does. We do what we do. We consider, we're the guys that sit there and, wait a minute, let's talk about this. Let's think about this. And I think the House is like, here, hold my drink. Let's go. I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong. I know the issues we just discussed, had both bodies been present, we could have dealt with them in a little bit different manner and still been as expeditious. However, they run their side the way they do, and we run the side the way we do. We could be smoother. I think I run my company different than the way we run the government. But at the end of the day, I think we've come out with a good, strong fiscal budget. We've done the things we needed to do. And the reality is, there's a 40% chance of recession. We put ourselves in a position to deal with that. Do we need a haircut in some places? Yes. Does that hurt? Yes. What the federal government is attempting to do, they're pontificating, they're not doing it, but if they'll do it, we have got to be responsible going forward. And I think we've produced a budget, both sides, regardless of how we did it, that shows us to be physically responsible.
I think every business owner runs their business differently than we run the government, but that's a whole other topic. Are you able to stick around for another segment? I wanted to ask you about a couple other things if you can stick around.
I can.
Got time? State Senator Bart
Yes.
Williams here on Super Talk Mississippi. I'm Scott Sands in for Richard Cross.
From the
Find out what's happening across your state. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. I'm Scott Sands, joined by State Senator Bart Williams. You're the vice chair of the Senate Energy Committee. I wanted to learn more about the Mississippi Power Play Initiative. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're technology. I made the comment earlier, we're becoming a technology state. We are already a technology state. We've got data centers coming. We've got, one of only 3 AI degrees at Mississippi State. The other colleges are doing many things. And these data centers require a bunch of power. In Mississippi right now, we currently have an abundance of power. And I think the governor's initiative on top of that is trying to ensure that we're investing in power generation sources as we go forward. So in the future, that abundance of cheap power remains across all metrics. We've got, go ahead.
These data centers, I've read a bunch of studies and stories from other communities that have these. They're a huge draw on local resources, on power especially. So how is your infrastructure set up to handle these new data centers and these new developments that are coming into the state, especially rural areas like yours in District 15?
Well, currently in our area, we don't have a data center coming, but we've got a lot of industry. If you know, out in Lowndes County, there are all types of the aluminum mill that draws a lot of power. We're fed by TVA. The answer to your question is collaboration with the providers and making sure that our grid is, very robust, making sure that the power generation sources for today and for tomorrow, we'll bring them online. I know that there are going to be some gas generation plants that are in the process of being constructed now to deal with today's and tomorrow's needs. The SMR, the small modular reactor, is a small nuclear reactor. We think that's going to be the energy of the future, but that's a decade out. And also implementing all types of energy sources, the clean energy sources, the fossil sources, the gas, all that is part of the recipe that we'll need to provide the power that we'll have the demand for. And I think we're out in front of doing that, leading.
You kind of stole my next question there, because I know Governor Reeves emphasized diverse energy sources, natural gas, nuclear, renewable energy. Where does the Senate Energy Committee play a role in advancing those renewable energy projects, nuclear power, which I think you're right, we need to be exploring and developing more to meet the new energy demands of this century?
Simply put, I think there's a couple things our committee does that helps us do that. Of course, come alongside the initiative that the governor's had, but put the players in the room. In other words, let's get the people from that Entergy, Mississippi Power, TVA, those are the 3 big providers in our state, and then the people that may be providing, whether it's solar, whether it's wind, whether it's nuclear, whatever the producers are going to be, let's get in the room, understand if we need to do something legislatively, if we need to create policy around something, let's try to do that. And I think we're doing a good job of that, the collaboration. And I find a lot of times we just don't do that. Obviously, with everything I just said, there's a lot of politics around some of these issues, and there's a lot of emotions. While those are important, we need to be aware. Let's get to the meat of the thing. What is our mission? What are we trying to do? And what is the best long-term viability to execute on the mission?
As chair of the Senate Technology Committee, I know you've sponsored bills related to autonomous vehicles, emergency telecom. We're talking to State Senator Bart Williams here on Super Talk Mississippi. Where is technology in the state headed?
There again, I think we're at the forefront. I think we lead the nation. I went to California, which won't bother me if I never go back, but that's okay. Those people seem to like it. Yeah, back in December to a technical conference, and you would have a state legislature on the stage with an industry person. And the thing that kept coming, the only state mentioned was Mississippi. They're doing this in Mississippi. The Amazon data centers were up there. Maine, the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network. It's the only artificial intelligence education component that's deployed statewide in the state of Mississippi. So, again, through leadership of the past and present, we started out in front, and I think we're still in front. We've got to stay that way, but I think we're killing it today.
I think the opportunity here, especially in this crossroads of what you're working on, energy and technology, requires a skilled workforce. And Mississippi is making some great strides, collaborating with institutions, Mississippi State, USM, Ole Miss, to develop these training programs to prepare Mississippians for these highly paid, highly skilled jobs in emerging energy and tech fields.
There is no doubt about that, and I think another player in this are the community colleges, where certifications are required all the way through that the ecosystem, if you will, from the PhD level all the way down to certification in technology. As the data centers come in, that increases the demand for a lot of the blue collar fields, HVAC, plumbing, those type things, and we've got people in the areas where these data centers are going to be, community colleges that are taking initiative and making sure they're trying to train that workforce. That is key. If we're going to continue to stay out in front, we have to produce a trained workforce. That's what these companies are telling us when we meet with them. If we've got that, then we've got the energy, we've got the resources. We just need the workforce and make sure we maintain that.
State Senator Bart Williams, just to wrap things up here in our last minute, as a Bulldog, who do you want to see as your next baseball head coach?
That's a good question. I know we're looking at several different people, just somebody that can bring the culture back that we're used to. The people that have been there have been great, but there's a culture that, that's our holy grail is baseball. And we want to get back to that elite status.
We'll be cheering on the Bulldogs in the regionals today. Hail State, right?
Hail State.
Thank you, sir. State Senator Bart Williams, SuperTalk, Mississippi. We've got news and Fox News here at the top of the hour. I'm Scott Sands.
From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Uh-oh, it's not playing for some reason. What? Hold on, man.
There we go. Southern Miss to the top. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm Scott Sands. Hattiesburg Mayor Toby Barker is joining us now, or I guess I should properly call it Baseburg, as I've seen on your social media.
That's right. We are the capital and destination for all things baseball, regardless of what level it's at.
Yeah, this is huge for the city. You're going to see people from around the country coming in for these big games, and it's great to see USM and the city of Hattiesburg hosting regionals once again and bringing a lot of attention to a great city.
Well, it really elevates the profile of our city when we're able to host these kind of tournaments. And whether it was William Carey hosting the NAIA first round a few weeks ago, or whether it's the regional, and who knows what's going to happen next weekend, we're just excited to see our city on the map for all that it has to offer and just the quality of baseball that we have here.
What does it mean for the economy of Hattiesburg?
Well, we get a lot of visitors anyway, but when you're talking about people that come in who are passionate about baseball, which, when you go to a regional and you make the trip there, you are passionate about baseball. But when you're able to host programs like Alabama and Miami, they bring their fans, they eat at the restaurants, they drink at the bars, they go and see the attractions that we have here and, buy gas here. And so obviously it's a big boon for our economy. But I think just the energy that it engenders in our people themselves, it really just raises the excitement level and another notch in the quality of life of our city.
I saw a tweet from some Bama fans, maybe it was the Bama Sidelines account on X, that said something like, pray for Alabama fans, nothing happened. They just have to spend the weekend in Hattiesburg. Look, I am an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, I admit, but I spent some great years in Hattiesburg on the radio there, and I had to respond to that tweet. There's a lot of fun things to do in Hattiesburg, and you want to talk about it, just go to any of the restaurants that Robert St. John owns, and you're going to eat well in Hattiesburg.
Well, bless their heart. We hope they have a great drive down here. But no, we have more locally owned restaurants than any city in the state. And whether it's going to Midtown and seeing, visiting Robert St. John stuff, or whether it's going in the avenues and going to the Keg and Barrel with John Neal or Big Trouble, or going downtown to see any of the stuff on Front Street, you won't find a better meal while you're in the city. There are so many things to do, particularly if you have kids, whether it's the new water park or the Hattiesburg Zoo, or just going and wander around downtown and seeing the Lucky Rabbit. I mean, there are so many things to do in Hattiesburg, and hopefully, I wish Alabama the best, but they may only be here 2 days. But hopefully they're here throughout the weekend and they can experience all that Hattiesburg has to offer.
I don't know what to recommend them for adult fans to do at night, because when I lived in Hattiesburg, you were just starting high school, and I was hanging out at Senior Frog and Roper's.
Well, I think there's a lot of great night spots, whether, going to the Hog or going to the Keg and Barrel or Big Trouble or going downtown. We have a new cigar bar that's on Front Street, so I'd highly recommend that as well. But there's a lot of night spots here in Hattiesburg. And but I have 3 older siblings that all went to Alabama, so this is a big deal that I'm hopefully going to humble them today as well.
Do you have any bets with them?
No, I think that Alabama won the midweek game this week, but we were very much in that game throughout the whole time. We just couldn't get outs toward the end. But I think, the way that Coach Oz has ordered the starting pitching by starting Matt Adams today, who Alabama saw earlier in the year, but then saving JB for hopefully a second round matchup with Alabama. I think our starting pitching has come a long way, and our bats are really catching fire right now. And so I think it's just going to be a great series, and I hope the best of us shows up to play, and I hope our fans are really loud.
We're talking to Hattiesburg Mayor Toby Barker here on Super Talk Mississippi. How's the city set up to handle this influx of people? And it's not your first time to host a regional, but are there security concerns? Are there any infrastructure concerns that the city faces?
Well, we have infrastructure concerns every day because the amount of growth that we have here. Both, whether Lamar County is number 2 fastest growing county in the state, Forest County is number 10. And so every Friday when you're leaving, if you're going west, it can be quite a challenge to get around. I do think that, we're the 3rd most visited city in the state anyway. And so we see this a lot, but just there's something about this week that follows Memorial Day where you get to host a regional. And then who knows what happens next weekend. I think it's going to be a real boon for the economy. But, I think people will have a great time. We have a lot of cooperation between Hattiesburg Police Department and our sheriff's departments and university police departments. So I think people will have a good, safe time here.
I've heard a lot of great things about the developments in downtown Hattiesburg. I read about the Hall Avenue West overpass that was completed. So there have been some pretty significant improvements to the infrastructure in the city.
Yeah, I think the challenge that we have is how do you manage growth? We're already 5 and 10 years behind, particularly in our east-west corridors. And so, whether it's 4th Street or Lincoln Road or Highway 98, I mean, if you're trying to go west and trying to traverse that, it can be a real challenge depending on what time of day you go in, which is a great opportunity for you just to stay east of the interstate and see all the downtown has to offer. But no, every year we make progress. We've had a lot of luck with some state and federal grants, and so we're going to continue moving the needle as we continue going forward.
Does it still take like an hour and a half to drive down Hardy Street?
Depends on what time of day you go in. So if you'll stay east of the interstate and sometimes even east of Highway 49, but you got to venture into Midtown to get to the ball game. Or stay at a hotel, take the Longleaf Trace to the ball game. We have a lot of golf cart traffic along the Longleaf Trace to get people where they need to go. You can make it, just leave a little bit early.
Yeah, that was always the plan. What are some of the big developments, some of the big things that you're proud of going on in Hattiesburg right now?
Well, I think for us, there's the major infrastructure projects, and we've brought in $120 million of state, federal, and private funding over the last 8 years. But then also seeing things like our convention commission going forward and building Serengeti Springs, which is a fantastic water park in our city that's open now. The Hattiesburg Zoo is now doubly accredited, and so that brings a lot of folks in as well. But then just we have an alley in our downtown where people come and they look at public art. We've got 64 large scale murals that people come to see. And it's just there's something new every time, and literally something new is unveiled every month, and so we're just extremely proud of the passion and talent and work ethic of our people that bring this creativity to light. We're also just proud of our schools, not only our 2 universities, William Carey, now the largest medical school, Southern Miss, which does so much, PRCC, which has a branch here, but also our public schools. Every school district in Forest and Lamar counties now are A districts. That includes Hattiesburg Public Schools. And so to see this kind of momentum, to see the pride that people take in their city right now, to be a Hattiesburger, it's really remarkable to watch. And I'm just very, very privileged to be here at this time.
Yeah, I think the education traction in the city is key. I mean, Southern Miss, William Carey, PRCC are all kind of leading the way in preparing an emerging workforce for technology, healthcare. It's really a reason for younger kids from around the state, from around the Southeast, to come to Hattiesburg and go to one of these schools.
Absolutely. And the thing is that both universities do different things very well. And William Carey is so agile that they can create new programs based on the needs of a workforce without having to go through all of the state bureaucracy to do so. And then Southern Miss is kind of always the flagship, particularly when it comes to teachers and nurses and polymer science and things like that. And then you've got, PRCC with the Lowry Woodall Workforce Training Center, that when we get an industry in and we go to do economic development, we engage prospects. Our challenge is available real estate. It's not workforce because we have so many people who do that well.
And you're able to do all this too on pretty solid financial footing. I've seen great reviews of your leadership in Hattiesburg.
Yeah, it was a tough time 8 years ago. We were a couple years behind on audits, but we've been on time for the last 4 or 5. We've got our bond rating back, AA3. We've had it renewed several times. Our folks have come forward and voted for a school bond issue and voted for a Parks and Recreation tax. I mean, there's just such pride in wanting to do things and wanting to see them done well. And I can't say enough about just the passion and the commitment of our own citizenry.
Hattiesburg Mayor Toby Barker here on SuperTalk Mississippi. I've got Oxford Mayor Robyn Tannehill on later this hour. You're calling your city Baseburg. What would you recommend she call the city of Oxford this weekend?
Well, she's got an election next Tuesday, so I want to make sure her folks are go out there and support her. But we call it the school up north, and so we hope that they do well. We're glad to not be paired with them in a super regional. But I wish all of our friends at Ole Miss and Oxford all the best of luck this weekend as well.
It'd be great to see all 3 of the state schools meet down the line as the playoffs continue. Great meeting you. Great job in Hattiesburg. I can't wait to get back and see how much the city has changed since my last time there.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, and Southern Miss to the top.
To the top. Scott Sands, and for Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center, I'm Patty Steele. Venable Glass has 2 locations in Richland and Brandon. Locally owned and operated with free mobile service for you in the Tri-County area. Call 601-605-4443 for all of your glass needs. Traffic is moving smoothly. We are all clear with no accidents, no major congestion. Traffic is brought to you by River Trust Federal Credit Union. Call and take advantage of their limited time share certificate special, a 4.22% annual percentage yield on 30 and 60 months. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Patriotism is alive at 8 Complete Flag Source. Flag holidays are celebrated all year as we honor those who serve both at home and abroad. Fly your U.S. flag every day with a U.S.-made flag from 8 Complete Flag Source. We also have a huge stock of state, historic, and military flags and flagpoles for your home, school, or business. So shop local at a 25-year-old family-owned business, 8 Complete Flag Source, 5295 I-55 North in Jackson, 601-362-9333, or CompleteFlags.com.
Wesley financial. Hey, I'm here with Alex Murray of Auto Innovation.
At Auto Innovation, we want to change your car buying experience. When you're in the market for a quality pre-owned vehicle, please come see us. We want to make friends, not just customers. All eligible vehicles are inspected by a MasterTech mechanic and come with a limited powertrain warranty on us. We are located on Highway 51 in Ridgeland. Come by and see us or check out our inventory online at autoinnovation.net. Let us change your car buying experience.
Auto Innovation, Highway 51 in Ridgeland.
Are the trees and shrubs running your yard instead of you? Let the tree professionals at Baroni's Tree Pros take out your problem limb by limb. Baroni's Tree Pros is your complete tree, shrub, and stump removal service. No job is too big for the tree professionals at Baroni's Tree Pros. And with our superior cleanup, you can't go wrong. Baroni's Tree Pros, 601-345-8090. 601-345-8090. That's 601-345-8090. Or online at baronestreepros.com. That's baronestreepros.com.
This is Brian Haydad with Sports Talk Mississippi, the Magnolia State's #1 sports show. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
A Right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
C-Spire text line open at 601-879-4395. I'm Scott Sands, and this is Mornings with Richard Cross. You can also find me on X at Scott Sands Media. Lance, do you want to have some Friday fun? I don't know if I told you why I asked you to send me pictures of you and Richard or not.
Yeah, no, you didn't tell me. You said you had something up your sleeve, though. So I said, let's roll.
I saw a story on MSN.com earlier this week. I use ChatGPT and Google VO and some of the other artificial Grok quite frequently. I don't know how much you use artificial intelligence, but there is a new trend apparently coming out for ChatGPT where people are asking for the cold, hard truth in artificial intelligence. They're asking ChatGPT, am I hot or not?
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
I asked for pictures.
I believe I'm hot. I don't know about a computer.
Right. Well, I'm glad you've got that kind of self-confidence. Do you want me to do you first? I thought I would see.
Yeah, save the best for last. Go with me first. Let's get that out of the way.
I wanted to ask, and again, as I ask the question, I'm uploading your picture to ChatGPT. Right, I gave it a picture, and I'm asking, just based on this, be honest, am I hot or not?
Right.
And this is what ChatGPT says about you, Lance, based on your picture. You're well-groomed, dressed professionally in a suit and tie, and you've got a confident, approachable smile. That's a winning combo in just about any professional or social setting. It continues, if you're looking to look hot in a more casual or modern sense, lighting, background, and styling can add polish, but you've already nailed down the clean, credible, and put-together look. Wow. So,
Mama's going to be proud of that.
Right.
Let her know professional looking in my suit and tie. And got a good smile. She said, well, that's what you should have.
I mean, I don't know if ChatGPT is going to be a jerk as we're doing this, because it wants you to pay the $20 a month to use the service. So it's probably going to be pretty nice.
Yeah, it's going to tell you what you want to hear if you're paying for it, right?
Right. And I uploaded a picture of Richard. ChatGPT, these, I think, of both you and Richard are from the SuperTalk.fm website. So they are professional
really
photos.
Yeah, that's a professional photo I took of myself.
For ChatGPT's review of Richard, it says the bright blue pinstripe suit with a bold red tie says, I'm here to close deals and shake hands like a pro. Confident smile, clean presentation, definitely gives off a TV anchor or state senator vibe.
Wow, Senator Cross. Man.
Bottom line, you're pulling off polished and professional. Whether that's hot depends on the viewer, but you're certainly not losing points on presentation.
He does a good job. As far as the hotness of Richard Cross, though, I'm going to leave that up to the Chat GPT bot to figure out.
I mean,
but
he's a good-looking man.
Yeah,
We can be honest here.
Sharp-looking
You're
fella.
flaming heterosexuals, but we can be honest here, right?
Yeah, I like messing with him. I'm like, man, your hair is strong today. When we're all just playing.
I may never be asked to fill in for Richard again, and now I may be ruining it with middays with Gerard too, because I took the liberty.
Yeah, I want to hear what they say about Gerard.
I pulled his also from SuperTalk.fm. It also says that I'm noticing a trend here. It says you've got a polished professional look, classic executive vibes with the crisp suit, red power tie, and confident smile. You're not trying to be hot in the Hollywood sense. You're aiming for respectable in control and probably make six figures.
Yeah,
that's exactly what
they're under.
says.
Yeah, I think they don't know his baseline very well.
Right. Here's my favorite line from this. Am I hot or not about Gerard? ChatGPT says, if this were a dating app for CEOs, I would swipe right.
Wow. Swipe right's good, yeah. Swipe left, yeah. You don't want to be swiped
right
left. That throws you in the garbage can, I think. That's awesome.
I did I think I pulled a picture of me. Oh, no, I did not.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Wait,
how convenient. I would really like
one.
to hear the truth, as you were saying, from your social media AI type things. It sounds to me like it's a little bubbly and, cotton candy and unicorns kind of, instead of being like, yeah, you look rough, you need to shave better and get a tooth whitening formula, that kind of stuff.
Oh, that would actually be very accurate for me.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't think it's not too accurate.
I'm losing my hair. I'm going gray. I did shed 100 pounds, but my teeth are a mess. I uploaded a picture of me on the golf course from yesterday.
Did you throw the swing in, or was this just you?
No. I'm not going to have ChatGPT.
I would love to,
my
if you
golf
took
game.
a swing and ChatGPT said, yes, you remind me of Lee Trevino or something, like, that it's just pie in the sky, pipe dreams.
ChatGPT says about my picture, all right, Scott, you're out on the golf course with a confident smile like you own the back nine and probably the front nine too. Beard on point, shades, and without trying too hard, vibes high. Are you hot? You're giving off serious alpha leisure energy, like the kind of guy who closes a business deal on the seventh hole and still makes par. So yeah, you're hot. And the commanding presence meets dad who knows he's funny kind of way. Hot with authority.
Yeah, you got the Brian Dennehy, and 8 whiskey sours, and I'm still closing deals.
Everybody who's got ChatGPT is probably going to do this now. I was really, this was fun to do. I was really hoping it would be critical so we could have even more fun with it. But after the second one that we did, because I didn't pre-screen these to find out what they would say, and I'll send screenshots up if Cammie or whoever wants to post these later of the reviews. But I was really hoping it would be more critical.
I did one of those a while back with, I can't remember what exactly it was, but it was like, what does a couple from every state in the United States look like according to ChatGPT? And it took like a man and a woman. I think everybody was kind of like 30s, 40s. But man, AI thinks that Americans are really depressed and craggly and work according to what it sees. It was pretty interesting to see the despair on all the faces of the people that ChatGPT was going state by state, and that's probably still out there, but it was very kind of revealing as to what a computer sees as each of us look like. Yeah,
the technology is amazing. I mean, we were talking about me looking for a job at the beginning of the show, and I will admit I ran my own pictures through artificial intelligence filters to post on LinkedIn, and so I should use those on the dating apps as well. That may be a help for that aspect of my life as well. Quickly here, you mentioned this earlier in the show, and we didn't have a lot of time to spend on it. I'm sure Richard and Gerard and the Sports Talk Mississippi guys talked about this a lot yesterday, but it's great news for fans of state. Mike Leach now eligible for inclusion in the College Football Hall of Fame. They lowered the win percentage requirement from 60% to 59.5% effective, I think, in 2027. So I don't think it's going to be immediate. But this does make Mike Leach, who passed away, 3 years ago now, into eligibility for the College Football Hall of Fame. And that's great. I think he is very deserving of that kind of honor. I mean, he really led innovations in offenses that revolutionized the sport.
That, and he took on tough jobs, too. Not to say that state is a tough job, but, I mean, in the SEC, obviously, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, we're not big states. We don't have the same budgets and things that, say, Auburn and Alabama. And what he was doing in that era in LSU, at Texas Tech, what he did at Washington State, at Mississippi State, there was some lean year in there with Mississippi State, but they went 7-6 and 8-4 the following 2 years. So, you just look at it, and I know that it's not a 600 or 60% winning percentage. But I think with the reality of his achievements and his innovation and all the stops he went to, none of them were easy jobs. To have that kind of a record, to me, speaks a lot and says a lot about him. And on top of that, what a personality.
He deserves to be in the College Football Hall of Fame just for his press conferences.
Just for the one-liners and press conferences. Yeah, but
offering
also
marriage advice and thoughts on mascots.
Just anything. He wouldn't talk about a lot of football at times, which I love because you get plenty of football. Everybody talks football. Everybody talks sports, and there's shows for that. And he had a way about him. And 11-2 season in 2008, another 11-2 season in 2018, and many great seasons in between that, and some lemons in there. But again, he took on projects, I think, and that says a lot of his character. Plus, he was a lawyer,
take a challenge.
Pepperdine educated lawyer if he wanted to be. And he said, no.
And this is my favorite weird fact about Mike Leach. And man, I think the sport and the world misses Mike Leach, but he taught a class on insurgent warfare.
Yeah.
He
was a pirate expert,
well-rounded guy.
Expert on pirates.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't.
He knew everything about
pirates
you could ever imagine. Yeah. He, when he was at Texas Tech, they were the Red Raiders, so he decided, hey, I'm going to master this topic, and read everything you could possibly read and became an expert.
And probably worked it into a lot of classic press conferences as well.
You swing your sword and all that. That's where it came from.
We'll talk to Oxford Mayor Robyn Tannehill. They're also hosting regionals as baseball weekend kicks off next year on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up.
Time to shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Won't you come see about me? I'll be alone, dancing, you know it, baby. Tell me your troubles.
It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Scott Sands. I think our next guest is going to have a bone to pick with you, Lance. You pulled out the Southern Miss to the Top song for Hattiesburg Mayor Toby Barker, and you got no love for Ole Miss.
Well, I do. I'm going to do that on the way out, though. See, I was trying to flip-flop it a little bit. So I'm not going to let my mayor down here,
Oxford Mayor Robyn Tannehill is joining us now on SuperTalk Mississippi. I think we're having some video problems, but it's great to get you on the phone. How are you, Mayor?
Doing great. How are you this morning?
Fantastic. How's the You can't see me, I don't think, but I'm wearing Ole Miss powder blue for you today.
Well, then we would have been matching. I've got on my powder blue, too.
and this was a tough decision for me as an Alabama Crimson Tide fan.
Oh, absolutely. I get it.
What's the energy in your city like today as you get ready for all the baseball games?
Oh, the square is already hopping this morning. The energy is amazing. We're expecting, 110,000 visitors. So, we're going to have a huge weekend in Oxford. The businesses are thrilled. All the fans are thrilled. It appears that half the students have come back, and so we're ready for that game tonight.
100,000 people, that's almost like a Phi-Tau Phi Mu mixer.
Yes, it is. I think I shared with you last time we talked, Scott, that we are using Placer AI to track numbers of IP addresses that are in town so that we can have accurate counts of our crowds.
That's not frightening at all. That's not a frightening invasion of privacy.
Not Big Brothery at all, right? But it allows us also to go back in the past and track from previous weekends. And we know that in 2019, when we hosted a regional, and those teams were Jacksonville State, Clemson, and Illinois, that we had 91,900 visitors for that regional weekend. We know that in 2021, when we had Cmte, Florida State, and Southern, that we had 100,600 visitors that regional weekend. So, I think on the low side, we can expect around 110 visitors, which is pretty close to we had Double Decker a few weekends ago, and we had 113,000 people at Double Decker. So we can assume, based on the average daily rates for hotels, that the economic impact of this regional weekend will be somewhere between $16 and $18 million for our community.
Are there any hotels left? Are the restaurants all booked?
I think everything is booked at this point, but you can come wait in line, and there are a lot of restaurants that don't take reservations, so it'll be first come, first served, and it's going to be a beautiful afternoon to sit outside at one of our bars or restaurants or on a balcony and do a little pre-gaming and then head over for the 7 o'clock game.
So how will the energy, the pregame traditions, the tailgating differ for these baseball regionals compared to what happens in the Grove for an Ole Miss football game or before an Ole Miss basketball game?
Well, it's different in that, football's different than everything with the Grove, of course. But baseball in left and right field particularly where all the grills are and all the rigs are set up, I would be surprised if there weren't people there by noon today. It just has an amazing energy, our stadium does. And, our stadium size has increased since our 2021 regional appearance or regional host. And so we know there will be more people in the stadium this time. And the Ole Miss fans are not a quiet group. So I hope Murray State's prepared for that.
Yeah, it's a 7 o'clock game at Swayze, Ole Miss, Murray State. We're talking to Oxford Mayor Robyn Tannehill here on SuperTalk Mississippi with people coming in from around the state. What are some of your favorite spots? What should people check out?
Well, obviously our historic downtown district is so special, and we have about 30 restaurants and bars in our downtown area. We've got James Beard Chef of the Year restaurants, several of them. Around the square, John Currents has City Grocery, and then, of course, there's Bourrée and Ajax and McEwen's, and Proud Larry's is always a fan favorite. We have the Bottle Tree Bakery that everybody should go by in the morning and get a sweet treat before they go back for round 2 of baseball. Funky's, which has an outdoor bar area that is amazing and always a good place to watch the game if you don't have a ticket. The library, St. Leo's, another fabulous restaurant in our downtown area. So you're not at a loss of places to go and eat, that's for sure. And you can walk from all of those to the baseball stadium.
And that's great. It's one of the attractions and one of the things that makes Oxford special on any game day. I believe, Robyn, you received the State Tourism Association Governmental Tourism Leadership Award. This is another opportunity really for Oxford to become a year-round destination beyond football season.
It is. There was a day when the summer was, this is our slow time. We called it towny time. Those days have passed. Oxford is pretty much hopping 365 days of the year, which is wonderful. We are experiencing our largest freshman class year over year. We have grown 102% since 2000 and expected to grow another 24% between now and 2030. So it is growing. It's positive growth, and we are doing all we can to keep our arms around it.
I think Oxford is the second fastest growing college town in America, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
We're getting a little feedback. I don't know if your video link may be working now.
Yeah, I think the video just popped up. Should I hang my phone up?
Give me just a sec.
Lance will give you instructions.
Great. I need instructions.
I'll rely on Lance for the technical aspect of that. I got you on video now, Robyn. supertalk.fm with Oxford Mayor Robyn Tannehill. You may need to hang up one of your things, one of your devices.
Hang up the phone and let's roll with the VMix.
There we go.
Hang up your phone. There we go. Good to go.
There we go.
You know, when I was talking to Hattiesburg Mayor Toby Barker, you know, he's calling his city Baseburg. Have you come up with a nickname for Oxford for this weekend yet?
It's Omaha. Come on, we know that.
That's right. Come on. It is.
Sluggerford.
We are going to be the baseball capital of the nation this weekend because in addition to the regionals at OU Stadium, we have 125 travel baseball teams that'll be here at our M-Trade Park for a huge baseball tournament this weekend. So, yes, let the fun begin.
How does the city handle that kind of infrastructure? Because you've only got 27,000 people there in the city normally, 27,000 townies?
That's right. Yeah, we do. We've got about 28,000 townies. We've got about 26,000 students. And we know from our tracking that on any given day, any random Wednesday, we've got over 90,000 people in town. So, you know, we are used to crowds. We experience all the football crowds, baseball crowds, double-decker, graduations. You know, this is pretty second nature to us at this point. We've got a first-rate police department that works hand in hand with other law enforcement agencies to make sure that we are doing all the things we can to not only protect people, but manage traffic. And, you know, we've gotten pretty darn good at it, I'll have to say. And I'll say this, that Hattiesburg does such a great job as well. I had a son there in school for the past 4 years. And we have so enjoyed our time in Hattiesburg, and we love some Southern Miss baseball as well. My son's got a lot of friends on that team, and we wish them well until we meet them head to head, and then we do not wish them well.
Right. Mayor Barker had glowing words for you as well. There seems to be a mutual admiration society happening here.
Well, I will tell you that Toby Barker is an amazing mayor and a really fine man. I think the world of him and take notes on a lot of things that he does.
On a serious note, unfortunately, in the society we're in today, whenever there's a high-profile event like the regionals or any big sporting event, Ole Miss football certainly included, it becomes a target, unfortunately. Are there any security concerns going into the weekend?
I mean, the same security concerns, honestly, Scott, that we have about every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night in Oxford. It's a different day, but we police different now. And, you know, once the terrible tragedy that happened in New Orleans on New Year's Day, the day after, I called a meeting of all of our folks that are in public safety, and we developed a new plan. We've spent probably $300,000 over the past 6 months on barricades for roads. We've lighted areas. We did a light study all over the downtown area and where pedestrian traffic goes. And we've upgraded lights. We've got all kinds of different things in place that, you know, you can't plan for everything, but I think we're as prepared as we can be for anything that's thrown our way.
It's going to be a great weekend. Oxford Mayor Robyn Tannehill here on Super Talk Mississippi. Your predictions, if I think I know what your answer is going to be, but I'll ask you the question anyway as the weekend kicks off.
Oh, there's no question that Ole Miss is going to win this regional and move on. And I also think that Mike Bianco should be SEC Coach of the Year.
Ole Miss, Murray State, 7 o'clock. Heard on many of these Super Talk Mississippi stations. Mayor Tannehill, great to see you again. You're looking good in your powder blue. Let's go, hotty toddy.
Good to see you, hotty toddy.
Scott Sands in for Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
From the better.
Your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Seem like the real thing, all it's fun. Don't you mistrust, love's gone behind.
It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. I'm Scott Sands. It's great to be here this morning, and I'll be filling in for Richard all of next week as well. Some fun stories to wrap us up on this Friday morning, Lance. Sunday is National Dinosaur Day. And that begs a question. If there were a real-life Jurassic Park, would you go? Or, I don't know, would you rather not be eaten?
I don't know. I mean, it's such a hypothetical, but yeah, I mean, I'd probably go check it out, but I don't see how I wouldn't be able to afford it, so I'd probably want to go, but I don't know if I'd be able to get in the door.
Probably.
What's the get in the door price? Like $20?
Yeah.
I'm in. Yeah.
What's fascinating is that we're very close to this technology. They're already using DNA to revive once extinct animals. There was a survey of 5,000 Americans, and most people said they don't think it would be worth the risk. But less than a third said that they would be interested in definitely buying tickets. And only 18% of people in that survey said that, yes, we should try to bring back the dinosaurs. I've seen those movies, and it doesn't end well for people.
Yeah, why would you want to do that? It seemed like we were trying to get away from them for a long time. But hey, whatever.
This is probably too much personal information, but I can't not mention this story. I use Dr. Squatch body wash. I'm
Sasquatch.
Sure I enjoy the bathwash, but now because of that, because I order it online, I keep getting served with this story in all of my news feeds. Dr. Squatch has a special limited edition soap infused with Sydney Sweeney's bathwater. Have you seen this?
I don't even know who Sydney Sweeney is. That's out of the loop.
How do you? As a male, and I don't mean to sound sexist or chauvinistic, how does a male in America today not know who Sydney Sweeney is?
I'm one of them. I have no idea who you're talking about, and I feel like I'm pretty, up to stuff, as far up with everything. But I don't know. Maybe I'm not.
You will Google her. You will look her up on Instagram if you're not sure, and you will immediately know who Sydney Sweeney is and why Dr. Squatch apparently thinks it's a good idea to infuse soap with her bathwater. Okay. Apparently, she was getting a lot of requests from, men.
Sasquatch
for her bathwater. Oh, this soap bar is called Sydney's Bathwater Bliss. Oh. It smells like, they say, pine, Douglas fir, and earthy moss, or as Dr. Squatch describes it, morning wood. I'm just reading the description here.
Pacific Northwest sycamores or something? Yeah, I don't know.
Right. Sydney Sweeney says when we were at the Dr. Squatch video commercial shoot, they had a tub for her. The video. It's her in a bath. And she got in there, took some soap, and we had a nice little bath. They took the water. It's her real bath water. This is a little late, but
I know I was playing.
That's fine. It's all right. It also is kind of fitting.
Yeah, this Jurassic Park things.
Sydney Sweeney said she's very much self-aware of her sex appeal. Fans always joke about wanting my bathwater. I was like, this is just such a cool way to have a conversation with the audience and give them what they want, and hopefully encourage them to take care of themselves in a healthy way.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes getting no is the right answer there. If they may have wanted it, but you could have said, nah. But yeah, if it sells, it sells, I guess.
And I guarantee you this will sell out.
Oh, it will.
People, there are weird men.
I guarantee you, if she would have clipped all of her toenails and sold them, somebody would buy them.
Absolutely. I looked it up. It's not on sale yet. It goes on sale June 6th for what appears to be a very reasonable price of $8 for each bar of soap.
$8? Okay, yeah, that's pretty regular for soap. Unless you're getting Irish Spring or something. Yeah.
Yeah, for nice fancy soap, that's it's not Irish Spring, which is like 50 cents a bar or something like that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. If you want like the custom soaps, you're going to spend on those things.
It's just
the goat's milk soap and all that. Yeah, that stuff's expensive.
A weird world we live in, and I hope those asteroids I was talking about earlier hit soon.
Yeah, well, it's so highly specialized. It's something I've noticed too, and probably most people do. It's great to have choices, I think, but sometimes you have too many choices.
Now you can choose if you would like soap infused with Sydney Sweeney's bathwater.
Yeah, you have that choice
is so inclined.
Wow.
That's America. That's what makes us great, I guess. I'll save some of these other fun stories for next week.
I'm sorry I missed the mark on
Cross.
that. Yeah.
That's fine. It's hey, look, I think we pretty much made it through an entire show for a change without me screwing up, so we're fine.
Well, I mean, we did have a couple of the names, and just Saltillo. And the double L is two L's here in Mississippi. But outside of that, you crushed it, my man. Crushed it Friday.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all of the baseball games. Hattiesburg, Oxford, Tallahassee for Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Southern Miss, Mississippi State all in the regionals. So I'll be cheering on the Mississippi teams as well as my Alabama Crimson Tide, at least until they meet a Mississippi team somewhere down the line, which I hope happens, and I hope all the schools advance. Be back Monday for Richard. You can find me on X at Scott Sands Media. Thank you, Lance. Appreciate everything that you and Alex, Cammie, and Will and everybody on the SuperTalk Mississippi team does. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you Monday morning at 6.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.